Well, what are some elements of Irish culture that you don't see in the United States?
Well, for one thing, when I was growing up, St. Patrick's Day was strictly a religious holiday. People celebrated it by going to church and then wearing Holy St. Patrick's Day medals. In this country, it's become, an inclusive, happy, jolly day. Now that, I believe, has changed since then, too. So one thing that I want you to make clear, which, Ireland has become a lot more Americanized.
How so?
Meaning it's like a freer environment for children and adults and women, and also it's lighter on religion than it used to be.
Also, so you were talking about like a Jewish identity earlier. So I guess, what does that mean, and like some elements of that culture, I guess?
Yeah, a very warm, happy family. I think that some of that was because of who my parents were, but some of it is just steeped in Judaism, the delight in children, and the...
Once you came to America and you had my mom and her siblings, how did that influence how you raised them?
Well, I think I was stricter than most American mothers. In fact, I would say that I learned to be more laid back from my good friend.
You're saying like the American mother. So as you've spent more time here, the majority of your life here, do you consider yourself American?
I would say I'm Irish American. American Jews, I cannot entirely relate to. And Irish Americans, there's a Jewish side of me, so I can't entirely relate to the Irish Americans, and I can't entirely relate to American Jews because I'm not. Because I've got that other culture there. And then the Irish Americans don't have the Jewish culture. You know what I mean?
Right. It's an interesting mix.
Yeah, but I felt that in the past. I feel that I relate to everyone now.
In our studies of nationalism, we brought up that some important features of national identity are ethnicity, civic loyalty, traditions, and perhaps most importantly, language. What do you think about this?
That sounds very realistic to me. Yes. And language is very significant. Irish is the Irish form of Gaelic. There are 3 Gaelic language, well, at least 3. Some of the world's great writers come from this tiny, tiny island of Ireland.
What makes up an American nationalist feeling? Culture.
I think it's a pride. Well, first of all, it's known as the land of opportunity, and so many immigrants came here because they were impoverished. They came and worked hard. Out of poverty or escaping, a refugee situations and so on and so forth. And it was really known as the land of opportunity, and it really was the land of opportunity. People could better themselves by working very hard, and then the first immigrants, worked hard for the sake of their children so their children could get educations. So when you're talking about American nationalism, I think there's pride. That's a pride, I think a healthy pride in being American, as long as it doesn't go overboard.
Right.
That's the problem nowadays,
mm-hmm.
But, from what I read about immigrants coming to this country, they're so proud to be in America and then proud to become Americans. This country, well, I think it's multifaceted. I think people bring their cultures with them. And I think the beauty of it is the opportunity to share cultures. The basic culture, I think, is rooted in the Constitution. Whether or not we fulfill it or not, I don't know. Yeah, well, obviously we don't. But it's all based on equality and fairness, and history has shown that this has not panned out. There's been lynchings of blacks in the South, there's been slavery, there's been all kinds of horrendous things that we've done. And then Americans, and let's not forget the Native Americans. Yeah, you know, the whole Western migration of, you know, immigrants to the U.S., they just took over land. I mean, it's the history of the country is pretty bloody.
Yeah, it is.
It is, and, you know, I think we're still working on it.
As we've discussed in this class, nationalism is not just defined by genetic race or ethnicity. It is defined, although not strictly, by language, civic loyalty, traditions, celebrations, and so much more. Although I'm Irish by blood, it doesn't feel to me to be anything more than that. This is partly because Ireland isn't as strikingly different from America as, for example, India or Korea. In terms of Jewish identity, I do not relate on a religious level, but I can understand the Jewish ideals of family and tradition. I used to think that my American identity was just an absence of another one, because I've always seen America as a country of immigrants, which is very true. However, I'm not one, nor are my parents. However, this project has made me realize that it's so much more. To me, being American means believing in a set of values outlined by our Constitution. It means equality, justice, safety, love, and opportunity for everyone. It means learning about other cultures and choosing not to hate people who are different than me. Although this is rather idealistic and non-indicative of the truth of our nation right now, it is where I hope to see this country go in the future.